What is up, Dealmaker Nation? Today we have one of the top sales trainers in the country with us live for another episode of Sales Week, where we bring you one of the top salespeople in the country each day to help you up your sales game. Guys, if you're in the real estate business, you know that this business is not about real estate. It's all about sales. And the number one way that you can take your business to the next level is by improving your sales skills. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about Joe. Joe this year was rated by Global Gurus as one of the top 30 sales professionals in the entire world, okay? He actually wasn't just rated in the top 30. He got the number one spot, even above names you know like Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort and guys like that. Absolutely incredible. New York Times bestselling author Andy Anderson says that Fortune 500 companies often bid against each other for his time. I've watched this phenomenon for years. I can definitely say that no one is equal. Guys, if you've ever read any of Joe's books, like his famous best-selling book, Sell Naked on the Phone, or any of his other books, you know just how powerful his sales techniques and tactics are. So guys, if you're watching this, make sure to put your phone away, turn off Facebook, turn off your email, spend the next hour investing in yourself, investing and improving your sales skills, and get your questions in. This is your one chance to talk directly with Joe. And the best part about this is if you stay till the end, Joe has a really special gift he's going to give everyone on the live stream. It's 5 free training videos, but you got to stay till the end. So if you're watching this, make sure to stay till the end, and you're going to get a special gift directly from Joe. All right, so Joe is going to be joining us in about 30 seconds. And we'll have them on right after this. Joe, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. I hear you're tuning in from beautiful California. I'm in California. You're tuning in from Florida today, correct?
Orlando,
Florida. I love Orlando. My wife's a big Disney fan, so we always go down there. I go for the food. She goes for everything else.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thanks for coming on today. Today, we're talking about a really awesome topic, and that's 8 non-negotiables for business growth. Now, you've been doing this for almost as long as I've been alive, right? How many years have you been doing sales training for?
You know, we got started selling first, and I think if you're really going to be good in sales training, you better sell.
Yeah.
And the majority of people that are training sales right now are done. They've decided not to sell anymore. I won't do sales training if I don't keep selling. So, been doing it a long time. There are principles and practices. Some of the practices have changed, but there's certain skills and tactics that will never go away.
Absolutely. And I see so many businesses that, you know, they're struggling or they've plateaued. I know my business, for example, I plateaued at the same revenue level for pretty much like the last year or so. I was kind of flat. Then what I did is I changed my sales tactics. I just did one thing. I changed my sales pitch, made a couple adjustments to it, and I 10x'd my revenue last month. 10x'd. Had my first 100K plus month, which just shows you the power of sales. I wasn't working more. I was doing actually probably less work, but making 10 times more money. So that really speaks to the power of really knowing how to sell, right?
And the majority of people, you know, there's a lot of people out there, they're selling. And I think a lot of them rely on charisma and talent. And I wasn't gifted with either one of those. I'm more processes, communications, and skills, because those are the things you can teach. Those are the things that will go far beyond a bad economy. You know, if you have processes in place, if you understand communication skills, and if you have the skills down, for example, the telephone. If you have that skill down, you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really like my younger brother, I was telling, he said, Robert, should I go to university? I said, honestly, you don't need it. I went to school. It was just like a 4-year party. Yeah, I worked a little bit, learned a few things, but you're going to forget that all within a couple of years. I said, you're not going to forget sales.
Right.
So I sent him a bunch of sales books. And I'm just like, dude, just learn sales. You'll do so much better than everyone else that's grinding every day.
Yeah.
Awesome. So 8 non-negotiables of business growth. Let's jump into that. What's number one?
What I have found, number one, is whenever you call something a non-negotiable, that's what it is. And in all the training and coaching I do, most people negotiate with the non-negotiables. So if you're out there, I know maybe it's some of your writing or whatever, if you have something to write on, and if not, go back and listen to this, because I'm going to give you 8 things that I believe will grow any business in any industry. So if we're starting at the base, the very base level, you've got to create clarity. And clarity is 3 things. It's knowing what you want as an end result every day, every week, every month, every year. How much money do you want to make? It has to be measurable. Everything you do has to be measurable at what you do. So you got to know what you want. Then you have to have dates for everything. When do you want it?
Yeah.
A lot of people will never put their stake in the ground and say by this date. But more importantly, why? And I'm not into all this psychobabble why. I mean, the why has to be so strong that you will not negotiate with a non-negotiable. And so once you have that in place, and that's your foundation, then you move up. And there's 2 things as a sales professional or a business owner, which most of the time is one and the same, that you have to bring to the table that no one else can give you. There's not a motivational book out there. There's not a seminar out there. There's not anything you can do to, if you don't bring these 2 to the table, you're not going to stay in sales. Okay, you better be ambitious and have self-discipline. You know, if somebody has to motivate you, you're not going to stay in sales. If you don't have self-discipline, and self-discipline is going to regulate what you do, when you do it, how you do it. What do you say no to? Because in the book, Good to Great, 5 years from now, your income will be determined more on what you say no to than what you say yes to. That's all part of self-discipline. So, you know, I work with companies all the time, and they go, well, we like to hire some salespeople. What are we looking for? You want people that absolutely have fire in their belly. You want people, and you, as a sales professional, need to understand you need to be ambitious. You need to have that eye of the tiger, so to speak, and then self-discipline. Once you have those 2 things, everything else about sales can be learned. So that's our foundation. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Is there anything you'd like to say or reiterate or give?
I think the whole, like, having ambition yourself, but also finding that in your salespeople is really super key. Like, I've been on sales teams where the company is spending millions of dollars generating leads, right? And then they have the cheapest salespeople they could get for $35K a year or whatever that have no ambition. And what happens? The few $1,000,000 that they spent on those leads just goes down the drain. Now, when you replace those people with people that really have this internal drive, not everyone has that. You know, it's this very rare thing, right, that all of the top salespeople have, I think, in common. When you replace those, you could make no other changes to the business model or whatever, but really 5x, 10x revenue just by having people that have that fire and that drive. How do you recognize that when let's say you're interviewing someone as a salesperson? What do you look for in that salesperson to kind of feel out whether or not they have that ambition? Because it's easy to fake in an interview. Is there something you can do to really pull it out of someone?
This is going to sound really crazy, all right? But I recommend to my clients, halfway through the interview, slide across the table a phone script and have them make calls. Do not worry about the result. But if you're apprehensive about picking up that phone, they're not going to make it in outbound sales. And I think, and it's funny.
This is a bomb drop too. Like so many people don't do this. Like it's so obvious, but just like you got to do that. You got to just get them on the phone.
And see, nobody does that. They go, but that's an interview. Well, don't you want to see? It doesn't matter if they get results. What matters is, will they? I think you have to do a background check. I think you got to call behind and say, tell me something about this person's work ethic. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was interviewed by a guy on the West Coast about sales on a podcast. He says most of his friends are in sales. They're sitting by the pool. In June of this year, and I own my own business, and I know my business is selling, not training. Training is the iceberg. Right. And in the month of June, even though I had I have a 3-day sales boot camp and a 3-day business for speakers, trainers, and coaches that want to make money. And so I set up on that Sunday, and then I say goodbye to the clients the next Sunday. That's like 8 days out. And I still have 42 formal proposals,
wow.
Which means I did more meeting. And so I think that has to be, so you've got to check behind them. You've got to see if they're willing. And then you hire slow and fire fast. Yeah. If a person, sales is the easiest thing to quantify.
Right.
They're either making calls, they're either doing meetings, whether it's virtual, over the phone, through Zoom or face-to-face, or they're closing business. So when you evaluate sales, are they generating leads? Are they making calls? Are they doing meetings? Are they closing business? That's easy to evaluate.
Yeah.
So when it comes to interviewing, I think the interview has to be somewhat application-based.
Okay. Now, I was listening to a really interesting interview the other day with Tony Robbins was interviewing this guy that Berkshire Hathaway uses. Warren Buffett uses this guy to turn around any companies that enter his portfolio that need help with sales. Okay. He's done it over and over again, taking companies, doubling, tripling, 10xing them in like 16 months, 18 months, like just insane timelines over and over and over again. And I want to get your thought on one of the tactics he uses to interview and determine if someone's a top salesperson.
Okay.
What he'll do is when he gets a top candidate, he'll start off with a pre-phone screen. And what he does, this is absolutely, I think, brilliant what he does here, is he calls them up. He says, hey, I got your resume. The job posting says that we're looking for only the top players. And, I just don't think you're a top player. So you're not going to be a good fit for us. So he starts off by rejecting, even if they're like a crazy good salesperson and have like track record of like incredible success. He starts off with that, rejecting them. And what he's trying to do is see how they react to that. Because he's like, the poor performing salespeople, they'll do is like, oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for letting me know. Right. That's a poor performing salesperson. A top performing salesperson will respond like, he said the best response he got was the guy said, well, you must be blind. Have you seen my resume? So the top salespeople will actually push back. Right. And then those are the people he looks for. It's about 10%, he said. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's a good tactic or good strategy?
Let me first say this. I don't do that. I mean, I don't want to speak about my opinion on somebody. I'm not a turnaround guy from that standpoint. Those kind of people are top down. They go in and they rework the strategy, the hiring practices, just so you know, because believe it or not, I'm very opinionated, but I don't have an opinion on everything. As far as I'm not going to give an opinion on something I don't do. Where I function is I work with the skills and strategies with the salespeople. So in other words, I'd rather not be involved in hiring. What I want to do is I want to take their present salespeople, or I want to take entrepreneurs and people, and I want to roll up the sleeves and teach them how to sell. So when you look in the world of sales, training, speaking, and coaching, you have so many methodologies You have so many different ways of approaching it. For me, I approach it from the bottom up instead of top down for this reason. At the end of the day, if they can't pick up a phone, if they can't generate a lead, if they can't do a consultative sales presentation, it really doesn't matter. And so when I go into a company or when I work with individuals, we're going to win at that level first. We're going to equip them to sell, and then we can start working in other areas. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Tell me what you mean by that, by equipping them. Are you talking about equipping them in terms of just training them or giving them better tools?
One of the uniquenesses about us, not better, not worse, is we do real-time outbound telephone call training to book appointments.
Yeah.
Okay? No role play, no attitude, no only A-type personality. We have a process and procedure by which, and you and I talked about this before the interview, we really work hard on messaging. Really work hard on messaging. And so the scripting that we create really brings the people to the table, and they're pre-qualified. So our closing ratio goes up. So now when we talk about training or coaching, we actually do the live training and coaching. We work with the messaging. Then we get on the phone and we make the calls. How to navigate a gatekeeper, how to get return phone calls. We do this in real time. And that's what I mean about bottom up. You know, there's so much strategy out there, and it's good. Yeah. I mean, when I look at some of the great sales trainers and the great sales managers out there, I'm not putting them down, but they spend so much time fixing the strategy. Can their people pick up the phone and book an appointment? And so what I like to do is I want to equip in our 3-day boot camp, we only allow 20 people. Usually 16 of the 20 have never made outbound calls to anybody they don't know or weren't a warm lead. Well, on day 3, they're calling them. And so we usually go about 74% conversion to appointment.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is you pre-qualify these leads. In our spaces, it's a house flipping space, a lot of wholesalers, a little bit of commercial as well. But the main thing is like figuring out whether or not that person actually has motivation, right? If they don't have motivation, you can't convince someone to sell their house.
That's right.
They want to sell their house or they don't want to sell their house.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is because we're buying at a huge discount, usually 70% market prices or lower, they have to have equity. So they got to want to sell their house. They got to have equity and a high degree of motivation if they're going to be willing to sell that cheap. So we have some sales teams where they'll have like overseas call centers that will take the calls initially, do kind of like a quick evaluation, and then if it's warm or if there's those different criteria, then they'll transfer it over to a closer. They'll then go for the close. What do you think about it? Do you think that that's a good tactic, a good strategy? Are you doing similar things with the companies you train?
I'm kind of a guy where I want the ball in my hand. Okay, I'm going to make X amount of calls. I do all our training. I do all our selling. Okay, and so I want the first point of contact with any prospect to be me.
Okay. And
in 2 or 3 sentences, we both know if we want to meet. That's what I mean by pre-qualified.
Okay.
I talked to a CEO the other day. He goes, my guys don't like scripting. And I went, you know what? The best actors in the world, the Italian actors like Stallone and the greatest, Pacino, they're all scripted.
They're all scripted.
But they know their script so well.
Yeah.
I believe in really well-rehearsed scripting. And so if I pick up the phone and I'm making a call, just by my script, we both know if we want to meet. That's what I mean by, that's why my closing ratio is high, because they're coming to the table because they want to. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm not saying call centers don't work. Don't misunderstand that. That's just not my model. And that's usually not the model I work in. I work in a lot of staffing companies, a lot of companies that the whole intent is to get an appointment to either sell commercial property, to sell homes, to sell insurance. That idea is, am I setting up a qualified meeting?
Right. Okay. Got you. Now, we run into a problem in our industry a lot. This is, I don't know if you heard this in other industries, but we have this problem all the time. And that's that motivated sellers are liars. Okay. So we have a lot of people that are in distressed situations,
Right.
but they will never tell you that they're in a distressed situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult to kind of like, I'll give you an example. Like, one of my friends was going to buy a hoarder's house. The seller calls up and he was pretending the whole time that wasn't his house. It was his cousin's house. But then when like, oh yeah, my cousin will be willing to take this price, but because he's too embarrassed to have people in his house with stuff piled up to the ceiling. Turns out, when they get to closing, it actually is his house, right? Name on the deed was his name. But we run into the situation where people sometimes will lie and pretend that they don't have motivation because they think they can get a higher price if they don't reveal their motivation. How would you deal with that? What would your advice be?
First of all, you cannot legislate integrity in other people.
Yeah.
All right. And undoubtedly, you have people listening to this at all different levels of expertise. And don't underscore what experience does. But I think if people are going to lie to you at some point during your process, do you have something in place that will reveal, is it their house? Is it not their house? Are they in distress? Are they not in distress?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a process that I stick with. Nothing changes it. Okay. And when we get later into non-negotiables that we're getting ready to go into, I'm going to show you my progression. And it usually, believe me, don't think everybody tells me the truth. Who wants to tell you they're not good at sales? Every salesperson is great when you first call them. Every company has no problem when you first call them.
Yeah.
Right? So people tend not to tell the truth to begin with. So for me, I have such a black and white process that I find out right away if I'm talking to the right person or not.
Yeah.
So can I move forward with the other non-negotiables?
Yeah.
All right. So we started out with clarity. What, when, and why. Then we moved into ambition. We moved into self-discipline. On top of that, my recommendation to your listeners, to everyone who sells, is become a professional at learning communication styles. And I'm not talking about a parlor game. I'm talking about, are you aware of every behavior style buys for a different reason, and so you have to talk to them differently. 65% of the population are slow processors, which means you better have more of a clinical process sale with them. And if you tend to rush them, you could blow it.
Got you. I've done that before on so many deals.
68% of the population is people-oriented. People-oriented people buy differently than task-oriented people. And so now you go, oh yeah, I've been through colors and animals and disc. Well, you've been through it, but do you use it? Have you gotten to the depth of professionalism that you're going to adapt your presentation and your communication style to their processing style? Because, everybody I know that's taken a personality test, I got this. There's no evidence of that because they have a shtick. Everybody has a shtick. This is the way they sell. This is how they talk. This is what they do. And they do what they do. Right. But let a fast-paced person communicate with a slow-paced person. And if that fast-paced person doesn't understand how to slow it down and communicate, and I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm not talking about NLP or any of that. I'm talking about if I speak to you in the way you receive information, we're going to have better connectivity. Mm-hmm. And so my recommendation to your listeners is become a professional at the communications business. When I learned Because we have a simple process here at Pici and Pici. We learn something, we execute it, and then we're qualified to teach it. So we don't teach or train or coach anything we don't do ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we learned it and we execute it every day, then we feel qualified to train it. But when I started to learn and really master communication styles, I picked up 30% increase in closing ratio.
Wow.
Just because I learned how to communicate better.
So this is really interesting. Actually, my wife, she's got a background in neuroscience and psychology. She always harps this on me. She's like, it's all about communication, right? Like, now one thing that you brought up that I actually haven't really thought about is the whole thing with time constraints and how some people take longer to process. You said, what percentage do you say of the population that
65% of population is what we call slower paced. I don't mean slow intellectually. I mean they
slower making decisions,
and they want details and they want more information. So it takes longer to get to a decision.
I see that because I know, like, when I do my sales calls, about a third of the people I sell them on the spot, and about the other 2/3 are like, give me some referrals. Like, I really get this. Now, here's my question though. In sales, especially in our industry with motivated sellers, a lot of times you're dealing with situations where there might be multiple offers coming in, or like if you give someone an offer, they're going to go shop with someone else, and that just blew up your deal. Okay, so someone is always going to pay $5,000 more.
Oh,
so one of the things that a lot of the top sales teams in our industry is they'll put a time constraint on it, right? They'll say, we're looking at 3 other houses in your neighborhood. Okay, and I don't have unlimited money. I can only buy. I'm not Jeff Bezos, right? That's Tarek was on the show yesterday. He said that's his line. He's like, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I only bought 2 of the 3. So if you want to make a decision, I'm gonna need to hear back from you by Monday. If you want your house to be one of the 2 of the 3 that we end up buying. Now, I heard that yesterday and I was like, that is brilliant. But then hearing what you just said about 65%.
All right, but don't misunderstand.
Does that blow it? Like,
no, I think
time constraints blow it.
There's nothing wrong with setting a timeline. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So for example, if I'm talking to somebody like me, Joe, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at 3 houses in your area. I'm going to pick 2 of them. I'm going to need to know right away from you if you want to be one of those 2. That'll play with me. However, if I'm talking to a slow-paced person, what information do I need to provide for you so you can make a qualified decision? Because, as you know, there are very motivated sellers out there. We can only work with 3 people in your area. We'd like you to be one of those 3. My recommendation for you is to get back to me within 24 hours, at the most 30, so we can move forward and help you move your house. You see, I said the same thing, but I said it in different languages.
Yeah.
Now, don't try this if you don't master this, or it'll come across so insincere.
Yeah.
Those people will think you're just being slick-lipped with them. This is not the kind of information either you only use with a buyer or a seller. You use this with your children and your wife and your husband and the taxi cab driver. You're either going to be a professional communicator or you're not.
Yeah. Wow.
So
okay. Yeah, you just dropped bombs, because what you just did there was like magic. That was awesome. You literally took the same time constraint, but just reframed it completely in a way that I know would make those like slow paced decision makers actually respond to that time constraint and not have it blow up the deal for you. Now, my next question for you though is, how do you figure that out if they're like in that 35% that's a fast decision maker, or the 65 that's not?
Were you born knowing real estate?
No.
I think for some reason, doctors go to school, they get all this education, and they have to go back and get recertified. Salespeople are amazing human beings. They took a Dale Carnegie class. They read one book, and they go, I got this.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get better. They don't want to improve. They don't want to study. They don't want to become, quote, a professional. And so when they're having great months, they think everything's okay. Everything that I'm talking to you about are learned skills.
Right.
You can learn a skill. You cannot learn an attitude. So it takes some time, but if you're going to learn this from a professional, make sure they're doing it. I always tell people, if you're going to pay $1 to anybody, if you're going to take any kind of counsel, coaching, training from anybody, there's 3 words: fresh fruit check. What does that mean? Is this person better than I am at it? Are they doing it now? And when's the last time they closed a deal?
Right. So really, it sounds like it's just an art that you develop, like a feel that you develop over time.
I don't mean to disagree with you, but no, it's not a feeling.
No,
it's not intuition. It's reading body language. It's reading voice tones. When you're allowed to actually see people live, it's evaluating a handshake. It's seeing, do they have steady eye contact? It's the colors they wear. My behavior style tends to like power colors. It's the whole package. And because I know my content so well, when I get into a training room,
right,
I can't train one behavior style. My coaching business, I have to coach the client in their behavior style. When I'm selling, I have to sell to their behavior style. So this is not so much intuition. These are skills.
Yeah. So where can you give us some examples of things you look for, or like what would be an example of something you would look for that
I
would
will
indicate?
The other 4 first, and then we'll backtrack.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I want to make sure I get this in. Once you have your communications down, now what sits on the top? What are the non-negotiables? Number 1 in non-negotiables is how many ways are you generating leads? For some of you, okay, for some of you, getting leads, you have plenty of leads, you have built-in leads. For some of you, you don't. Here at Pici and Pici, we have 22 ways to generate leads. That's one thing. Number 2, and my favorite, how many outbound telephone calls are you making every day, every week, every month? And you need to evaluate that. You really need to measure it. And so therefore, the outbound telephone call, to me, is the number 1 tool in virtual selling. Whether you're selling virtually, whether you're selling face-to-face, the phone is the most important tool. I mean, many years ago, when we moved into the space, I said to my wife, what don't sales trainers want to train, and what don't salespeople want to do? And my wife researched, and she said, a lot of people say they do phone call training, but very few do live where you do it in real time. Second, most salespeople don't want to use the phone. I said, good, we're going to make that the anchor of our business.
Yeah.
So now you've got lead generation, you got the phone call. Then you have what I call the core story. You may call it the sales presentation. That is the initial meeting whereby you ask questions. You discover, okay, what's uncomfortable for them? What do they want to improve? What problem do you solve? What they want to accomplish, and what is their timeline?
Yeah.
Okay. It's how, and if you want to really look at, for you top performers, I know you know the answers to this. For you people that are struggling, the single most important thing you do in your business that you evaluate are how many of those meetings are you doing a month? And the last one of the 4 is priority and time management. If you own a business and or if you're in sales, there's a million things to do. A million. Are you working in your highest revenue producing activities? Are you spending more time in those top things or shuffling paperwork. And I know you have a certain amount of paperwork you have to turn over. That's not my point.
Yeah.
You see, I'll tell you what happened. In 2008, my wife and I went to the National Speakers Association convention, and it was the last one we ever went to because all the big-time speakers were whining. Because in 2008, I know some of you are old enough to remember, some of you aren't. The world imploded.
Yeah.
Banks went south, real estate, mortgages, just things were not good. In my industry, speak coaching training, 95% of the speakers, coaches, and trainers either got out, partnered up with other people, or went part-time.
Yeah.
My wife and I got up and walked out. She goes, "Why are we leaving?" I said, "We're tripling our business this year." I'm not Tony. I'm not Zig. I'm not Les Brown. I didn't come from pedigree. I didn't go to Harvard. You understand? I'm not a celebrity. What are we doing? And what I just rolled out for you, those 8 non-negotiables, that's how we tripled our business. That's how our business has weathered COVID. I remember end of February, in 30 minutes, I lost 75 grand. Cancellations, boom. All I did was keep on our non-negotiables. And in 3 weeks, we made it all back.
Wow.
So that's kind of an outline of the 8 non-negotiables. I want to go back. You had a question about communication styles or something. You had a question.
To be honest, I blanked on it. Well, a couple of things I found interesting about this is, with when you're doing the in-person sale, this comes, I think, circles into the question Josh has here. So Josh says, what are your best tips for closing a deal over the phone where face-to-face is not possible? So when you're doing it in person, it's easy to kind of gauge. Well, it's not easy, but you can learn how to gauge body language and things like that. A lot of people in the group are virtual wholesalers. They don't even actually meet these people. What are you looking for then when you're over the phone? Is it just
That's
all
a great question, Josh. Let me tell you this. Over there is a whiteboard, okay? And that whiteboard has every proposal that's out. And what I found out that my virtual closing is no worse than my face-to-face closing. But the reason for that is my process is the same. So in other words, if I'm virtual selling, whether it's Zoom or on the phone, I've got what I call a core story sheet with me. And I'm taking them through my interview. And so my process is, what don't they want? What is their pain? What's their reason for wanting to sell this house? What can't they live with? What do they want? What is their timeline? But then the secret is, this is where I have to wedge myself in. I have to talk about 2 or 3 uniquenesses about my process. So I become the go-to guy. I'm selling me at that point. Okay.
Gotcha.
There's the top 10 reasons why people choose somebody is price. Number 8 or 9 is price, unless you can't sell.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm probably one of the higher priced people in the state of Florida for what I do, but I win a lot of contracts because of that uniqueness. So I take them through the process. So first I find out my discovery, I insert my uniqueness, then I get to how I can help them. So I don't know if I'm helping you in any way. I don't use any cheap closing techniques. What I do use is a consultative approach. I can do it in 5 minutes. I can do it in 20 minutes, depending on their behavior style. But I always know what my call to action is. I don't know if I helped Josh or not, if you want to put on I did or not, but that's my
Josh, let's know the answer to your question. So it's the same thing. You got to process it works. What I find interesting about your process that I think a lot of people don't do is really talking about how you differentiate yourself.
Yep.
Right. Because so many times in our business, you got a motivated seller. They need to sell. Like, let's say it's an inherited property. When there's an inherited property, it hits the probate court. And as soon as it hits the probate court, everyone out there is calling those people saying they want to sell the house. Because 99% of the time they're going to sell the house and they just want to get rid of it. Right. So when you end up in those situations,
any behavior styles.
Yeah.
there's a company here in Orlando called NAI RealVest. They are a Caldwell Banker commercial real estate company. Literally, I called them for 8 years and got nowhere. In the 8th year, a new managing director picked up the phone. And I literally said, I said, Robin, my name is Joe Pici. Is this a good time? He goes, what's this all about? I specialize in helping commercial realtors generate better leads, book more appointments, and close more business. And he goes, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? I said, you have one question to answer. Is it worth 15 minutes for me to show you how you can get your people on the phone booking more appointments? We got the appointment. Yeah. I read him as a fast-paced, task-oriented person that for years sold.
I love it.
So I asked him, Robin, what is it that you most want to improve? He said, I want to get those idiots back there off their email and get them on the phone.
Love it.
I love it. Anything else? He said, yeah. More calls, more meetings. He went through the whole thing. I said, what do you want to accomplish? He said, we want to increase by 20%. I said, real money, how much is that? He gave me a number. I said, what's your timeline? He goes, yesterday. I said, what's your timeline? He said, if it's you, this week, if you got the availability. I said, okay, let me tell you what's unique about me. Takes out his pad. I said, I eat what I kill. Because that was the behavior style he was. Right. Now, you say to the wrong behavior style, they're done.
Yeah.
You know what he said to me? He goes, you mean you're still selling? I said, who's sitting in your office? He goes, you. I said, number 2, we're going to do real calls, live outbound calls. He goes, you're going to get them on the phone in real time? I said, if not, don't pay me. He said, I don't need number 3. Give me the contract. I told his behavior style. That would not be with 92% of the population.
This is so huge. So most people have the same script, the same process for every single lead that comes to the funnel, right? It doesn't matter who that person is, how they behave. It's the same script, it's the same. Now, do you use the same script and then change things up when you get to like Q&A and stuff? Or is it the same process?
Example, when I go into a company, let's say somebody comes to our sales boot camp, the whole first day is communications. I mean, we teach people how to listen and what distracts people. So if I know your behavior style, I know what distracts you, which means I know your processing, which means I sell to you differently. The whole second day, we go into target market, value propositions, scripting. If you're calling into a B2B market, navigating the gatekeeper, how to get return phone calls, that is 6 hours, which means the messaging is going to be different per industry.
Yeah.
Then we go to lead generation. The next day, it's all about the live calls, presentation skills. So basically, what we've learned is if you have a process, if, let's say somebody on this call is in real estate and they decide tomorrow they've had all they can stand and they want to go to insurance. If they know the process and skills of selling, they just have to change their value proposition and where they generate leads. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this helping you guys at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, in the comments below, if you're watching this right now, this is helping you, let us know. Josh, I know you're watching. Is this helpful? Kenneth, I know you're watching as well. Is this helping? Joe, I got another question for you. So you've talked a lot about gatekeepers, and we have in our industry it's a little bit different. We don't have like gatekeepers because it's like B2C,
right?
But what we do is like on a probate deal, for example, there's a lot of times there's multiple decision makers.
Exactly.
Right. Furman, glad to see you're watching. Glad this is helping you out. Now, is it the same kind of thing where like let's say that you have a deal where the husband is like ready to sign, the wife is like, no, I don't want to sell. Like, how do you deal with almost like gatekeepers like that, or on a probate deal where it's 6 different siblings that all
everybody's a gatekeeper except the person with the checkbook and decision making. So everybody is a gatekeeper unless they have the ability to say yes and keep it firm. So, which means you better have the messaging that will allow you to get to the person that has the power to say yes and it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit more, actually?
We really, I mean, understand.
So with the husband and the wife example, for example,
Right.
are you saying, so let's say the husband wants to sell, the wife doesn't want to sell, and that's blocking you? Is it really that the wife is the decision maker then?
Well,
is that really what's
No, that doesn't
on?
mean that at all. It means the wife is in charge of the house. Okay. Yeah. Here's the thing. It just depends. See, that's a blanket question, but it depends. Were you able to meet with both of them?
Yeah.
All right. Because if you're meeting with both of them, you have to sell them individually.
Right.
Don't let anyone else do your presentation.
Okay.
So what I'll say is, so Bobby, besides yourself, is anyone else involved in this decision? Well, of course, my wife is. Then can I make a recommendation? It would be important when we have our preliminary meeting for us to be together, or whether virtually or face-to-face, for us to all be involved in the meeting. Okay? Yeah. Because here you go. You got this guy who wants to sell a house. He doesn't know anything about sales. You talk to him. He's got to go sell his wife. He doesn't know anything about sales. And it goes downhill from there.
Right. Yeah.
This would be the one that carries the mail.
It's so true. Because, I mean, there's been so many times where, like, I'll do a sales call with someone. I'm selling software, real estate investing software. And I get one of the business partners on board. He's 100% sold. And he's like, oh, let me pitch this to my business partner. I'm sure he'll be on board.
Oh, yeah. Look.
I'm like, no.
But again,
let's get on all together.
The way you frame it has to be, you can't disrespect them.
No, how do you do that? What do you say?
How you talk to them has to do with their behavior style. Now, I got to ask you a question. What time are we done?
We can go as long as we need to. Typically, we run for about an hour. So we're about 13 minutes left in the hour. Guys, if you have questions, make sure to post them below.
Let me give out the free gift, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Okay, so you have a free gift for everyone that's watching right now.
Absolutely.
Do you want to tell us what that free gift is?
Yeah, it's going to be 5 15 to 18-minute videos on selling virtually.
Wow.
Okay, so this is how you get it. You take out your phone, your iPhone, your whatever, and you're going to text the word Sales Edge. One word, though. It's got to be one word. Some iPhones break it up. Then you're going to text it to 55678.
55678.
That's going to send it to a link that says Pici and Pici. All right? So the word is Sales Edge. You're going to text it to 55678. That'll take you to a link that says Pici and Pici. You hit the link, it's going to take you to a splash page. It should say Recapture Lost Revenue Through Virtual Selling e-course.
Okay, let me try this right now. I'm going to go 55678, and I'm going to text Sales Edge.
Make sure it's one word. Some phones break it up. It's got to be one word.
It's breaking it up.
All right.
It worked. It worked with 2 words too, though. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I got it.
Take you to Pici and Pici.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Did it take you to the splash page?
Sales Edge. Yeah, got it. Perfect.
All right. What do you see?
I see a picture of you and your wife.
Okay.
Free words.
Revenue through virtual.
Got it.
Now,
awesome. This is
put
perfect.
Your first name and your email, and that'll be sent to that email. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it in your computer. The second thing, if you scroll down, all right, scroll down, there's links to my podcast, Sales Edge. It comes out every Tuesday, every Thursday. It's about sales, marketing, business growth.
Yeah, a really awesome podcast. I was listening to the other day. It's excellent. You guys definitely got to check that out.
I'm going to offer you. My phone number is 407-947-2590.
If you ever want to put 407. Let's see that. 407
947
947
0.
Or you cut out there for a second. 947
2590.
2590.
Any of you want to grab a cup of Joe, free cup of Joe, call me up and say, Joe.
There you go.
I'm always open for a phone call.
Awesome. This is super, super generous of you, Joe, to offer this to everyone. I'm going to download these right after and probably binge watch them right after
Does
this.
anybody have any questions?
Ahmad, I see you're watching. Do you have any questions? Furman, Rana, Kenneth, Josh Cohan, I know you're watching. Let me know if you guys have questions. Post them in the comments below, and we'll make sure to address them. Sometimes there's a little bit of a latency between when people post on social and when it comes through. But, man, this has been absolutely incredible. Now, you have a few books out as well. Can you tell us about those books? I know
I'd rather you not buy the books. The books are old.
Don't buy the books. Okay.
I'm the only person that'll ever tell you that. We wrote that in 2005, and the first year just selling on the phone, I sold about 50,000 copies. There was no Amazon bestseller if you sold 3 books in those days. Okay? I'm sorry. That was sarcastic. I apologize. But you can handle it. Go on our website, www.piciandpici.com. There's a lot of great downloads on there. Also, another thing, you please connect with me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
All right. Somebody just emailed and said it went to waltz. That's because it broke up the word.
Yeah, make sure it's one word. Sales edge, one word.
Around the word sales edge, it'll go to right place.
Perfect.
But
good tip there.
Go send me a LinkedIn invite, and let's get connected. LinkedIn actually right now is generating 35% of our business leads.
Wow. And how do you do that? Are you outbound prospecting, or is it just
people? Outbound. I don't send those little notes. I didn't say, hey, I'd like you to work with me. My wife is ranked in the top 10 women on LinkedIn to follow. She works with companies and individuals on how to mine leads in your target market using LinkedIn. And quite frankly, it's our #1 source of quality leads for our high revenue producing clients.
Wow. We got to check that out. Awesome. I got to look at that. I know LinkedIn prospecting for real estate people. It's a little bit different, but I saw a lot of software, so I know. Definitely check that out.
But can I tell you this? For the realtors, forget if you don't want to mine leads there, it is the #1 way you can grow your brand. Look, I got ranked in the top 30 sales trainers and speakers in the world by global gurus. The first year, 3 years ago, I was ranked number 29, then number 3, #1. I spend no money on advertising.
How do you do it? What's the secret?
Number 2 through 30 are spending millions.
Yeah, you got big names. You got Grant Cardone right under you.
And so therefore, LinkedIn has become our #1 way to grow our brand. Now, here's the thing about that brand. When people check you out that are in the business world, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile. And a personal LinkedIn profile has a 561% higher view rate than a business website.
Wow, that's incredible.
All right. And so LinkedIn, whether you use it as an outbound lead source, it's unbelievable for growing your brand.
Yeah. Most people just think of it as like a resume.
It's not.
They're
using it.
Yeah, sales tool.
They're using it incorrectly. I don't think resume. I think, can I get a lead, pick up the phone, and go to work?
Awesome. We got a question coming in here from Kenneth. He says, do you have any advice for an absolute beginner getting started in wholesaling?
Yeah, I'll give you advice from a non-wholesaler. All right. Find out who's winning in wholesaling.
There you go.
learn the wholesaling side from them. But remember, I don't care how much you know about wholesaling. If you can't sell, you won't stay long. You have to decide you're going to sell.
Absolutely.
That's
it's all 100% sales.
It is.
A lot of people get in the industry, they think it's real estate and like they need to get their license. It's 100% sales.
Look, right now, most of my peers are sitting home broke. Not because they're not got speakers, trainers, and coaches. They don't know how to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ken, just focus on getting really good at sales. Get really good on the phones. Just call 100 people a day. If you call at least 100 people a day,
you'll be fine. You'll need a real accountant.
Yeah. You'll get those first. Kenneth, have you assigned any deals yet? Let us know. But once you get that first check, you get that check deposit in your bank account, $40,000, $50,000. Like it's all worth it. But you got to put in the work, right? A lot of salespeople are calling 5-10 people a day. You're not going to get anywhere doing that. Call 50, call 100, call 200.
That's right.
Your results will be directly linked to how much time and effort.
Once you have the right messaging, once you have the right sales approach to selling, the rest is numbers.
Yeah.
It's how many dials to talk to how many people, to get how many people to the table, how many presentations, to close how many deals. That's never going to change. I don't care about COVID and this and that. That's sales.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on crafting the script? Because it seems like one of the things I got from the show is
all right. So, Robin, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I am not being evasive. That is not a 2-minute answer. There is a process. I had a guy from England email me the other day. He says, Joe, I know you work with financial services. I'll pay you $1,000 a script for 3 scripts. It ain't happening. I will not give out scripts if I don't teach people how to get there, because a script without understanding is a waste. And then they'll say, this doesn't work. So many companies I walk into, some guy makes a script and hands it to all the salespeople.
Yeah.
The script doesn't work. So we have a methodology on how to take what they're doing, who they're doing for, and create the right scripting. Okay.
Is that something you train in your training courses?
Yes. That is probably the most intense thing we train. Messaging, and getting in front of the right people.
So what you do is basically, instead of just trying to create a generic, you focus first on trying to understand the business, understand the seller, customer mindset, situations, all of that. And then based on all that, only after you completely understand everything and done your due diligence, then you get started on actually crafting the script.
We craft the messaging based on what are you selling, who are you selling it to, and what is it delivering, and we work backwards. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't do any research on companies.
Really?
My first 3 sentences tells me and them if we should talk.
Yeah.
I walked into a guy the other day, and I sat down, he said, Joe, how much research did you do on our company? I said, didn't do any. I said, when I called you, I said, we specialize in helping your team generate better leads, book more appointments, close more business. Is that why I'm here? Yes. Let's get started.
Get straight to the point. I love it. Yeah, we see people do this on deals too sometimes. Like I've seen so many people do this where like before they cold call someone, they'll look up their property on Zillow, they'll open it on Google Maps. Maybe they'll even run comps on it to figure out where their offer is going to come in at. And then they call. They're like, oh, I don't know how you do 200 calls a day. I can only do 5. It takes so long for me to comp and get there. I'm like, why? Like, that's such a waste of time. You don't even know if you're going to get that person on the phone. Get the person on the phone. Find out if they have a motivation. The house doesn't matter.
Look, they don't qualify if I don't get the meeting. Why do I need to know anything if I don't get the meeting?
Yeah.
So hopefully this has been of value.
Super valuable, Joe. It's been awesome having you on.
And let's stay in touch with each other. If I can serve you in any way, you come on. And we are having a live sales boot camp in October. We just had one in June. We're open here in Florida.
Awesome. It's going to be in Orlando?
Yeah, and I only bring in 20 people at a time. We limit the seating because it's very intense. But Love to have you. I only have about 7
Yeah.
seats left, so if you want to
I gotta
do
check
it,
it out.
give me a call.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely amazing having you on the show. Once again, if you text Sales Edge one word, make sure it's one word, to 55678, then you're going to get 5 free sales training videos directly from Joe. It doesn't cost you anything at all. So make sure to do that. I just did it. I can't wait to watch those. This has been absolutely incredible. So many gold nuggets on there. So many things that I've read, like every sales book out there, and you dropped things today that I had never heard in any of the sales trainings I've ever done. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your time with us and just spreading some of your wisdom from your years and years of just training some of the top sales teams in the entire country.
Yep. Well, let's just stay in touch. If you guys need anything, Cup of Joe, pick up the phone, call me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it. And if people have questions after this, can they post them in the comments? Will we be able to respond on,
I'll tell you what,
on Facebook? Or
let me give you my email, Joe at PICIandpici.com. Send me an email or call me.
Awesome.
Or send me a message through LinkedIn.
Awesome. John's excited for the 5 free training videos. Yeah, I can't wait to dive in them right after this. Awesome, Joe. Enjoy your afternoon. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.